So, normally in these videos where I title is like the X team's coach did everything to stop Caitlin Clark, and normally it's like, and she still dropped a triple-double and she still had 26, something like that. Becky Hammon did everything to stop Caitlin Clark, and for the first time this year, it worked. And before we get onto it though, if you guys are new to the channel, subscribe. We are so close to 35,000 subscribers. We're obviously not going to hit it by the end of the day. If we could do it by the end of tomorrow, that'd be insane. If we could even get to like 34,700 by the end of today, that would be absolutely incredible. Like 35k was my goal for the end of the playoffs. Heck, you never know. We're probably not going to do it, but we might by the start of the playoffs, maybe. No, it's like 10 days away. Maybe by the start of the playoffs, 37k, 40k by the end of the year would be unbelievable. But Becky Hammon did a really good job on Caitlin Clark from the get-go. So you can see here, Caitlin Clark shot 12 twos. I'm pretty confident that is the most two-point shots Caitlin Clark has shot this year. And there is one thing that I've noticed in the last two games is Caitlin Clark has settled for so many mid-range shots. You can see here against Atlanta, was it against Minnesota where she was just chucking mids? She shot 11 twos against Minnesota. She shot only 4 against Atlanta. And like her last, she was obviously shooting nearly 50, 40, 90 up to these last 3 games. Obviously has gone quite a bit lower. 1 of 10 from 3 probably brings her below Breanna in 3-point shooting and field goal percentage. I wouldn't be surprised if that one game after my video probably didn't age well earlier. But you can see here, she was shooting the majority of her shots from the 3-point line. She has been all year. And she has started to really go away from attacking the basket strong. So there is a caveat that maybe Caitlin Clark is just trying stuff out. Maybe she's kind of being like, okay, let me work on the mid-range shot. Every game's a free hit. Let's work on this rather than being overly concerned about how many points, the percentages. Maybe I'm just going to go and work on something new. Maybe that's the case. But you could see from this game that they were able to force her into a lot of tough threes. Look, she got cold. I'd say she was probably 1 of 6, and by then she shot a lot of rhythm shots. She's missed more open shots than I'd seen in any game. But they did not let her get into a rhythm. Becky Hammon had one tactic. Caitlin Clark gets hit no matter what. Every single time she dribbles the ball, you are pushing Caitlin Clark. Whether it was Chelsea Gray, whether it was Jackie Young, whether it was Sydney Colson, whether it was Kelsey Plum. Whenever Caitlin Clark has the ball on the floor, you have to have a hand on her. And not like a hand like near her, just be ready. It was like hand on her back. Caitlin Clark would be like rhythm dribbling the ball, and you would have a hand on her back. Every single time she moves, you push. Every time she's running the floor in the fast break, we don't care. 2 hands, shove. And it worked. The referees did not call it. Kelsey Plum got away with 3 2-hand just shoves. She was just shoving people. She was running around bear hugging Kelsey Mitchell. She was just running around pushing people. Like, I've never seen anything like it before. She had one foul, and it was obviously on Caitlin Clark's hand. She was just running around shoving people. And that was their tactic. Was just to hit her as much as you can. And you know that the referees are going to give you the benefit of the whistle because you're the Las Vegas Aces. And go for it. Go for it. It'll work. Just hack the living crap out of her. But tactically wise, they did one thing really well. They forced her into the drive. So what teams tend to do is they allow Caitlin Clark to really dictate where she's going. As in, Caitlin Clark can go left, she can go right, she can pull the 3, she can come off the screen, she can hit Aaliyah Boston a short roll. I still think she made a couple of nice passes. There were a couple of good passes that weren't assists. Like, Caitlin Clark could easily have 10 assists in this game. And every single time Caitlin Clark does her push-off, flop. So every time Caitlin Clark makes contact with you, flop, and Caitlin Clark 2 offensive fouls. Like, there was one play, the play where Caitlin Clark, the first one where, in fairness, she got Jackie Young in the head. But it was like, I watched a replay like 2 seconds before, Jackie Young just shoves her. Jackie Young shoves her. And as Caitlin Clark is dribbling, Jackie Young literally pushes Caitlin Clark in the back And after Caitlin Clark gets pushed in the back, she follows through with her arm. And I'm like, man, there's like 4 defensive fouls before the offensive foul. But the refs got away with it. But what they did was they were able to really well dictate where Caitlin Clark played. Whether it be through what stuff that, at the end of the day, the only things that are fouls are what the referees call. And what they were able to do was they were able to physically force Caitlin Clark into driving, and they were sending help off the corner. No matter what they sent, the help never really came from A'ja Wilson. Because the help comes from A'ja Wilson, she can dump it into Aaliyah Boston off that drive. Because she was driving to the basket. Or she could dump the ball off to Alyssa Smith, who finishes okay. So what the help was they were bringing help from the far corner. So it was a guard helping over, and they were, again, just fouling her. Like, they were just getting there early and fouling her. So that's why, obviously, Caitlin Clark started shooting the mid-ranges. They were trying to funnel her into the drive, into the help, and they were trying to force her to kick to the corner, and they were almost like daring the corners to shoot. And like it was like at times Christy Wallace, Katie Lou Samuelson, I know Lexi Hull hit a shot a couple of times. Kelsey Mitchell hit shots, but like their rotations were on point. And like it was the one time I've seen a team really, since like the Connecticut Sun in the first couple of games, really dictate where she went and how she did it. Like, they gave up a lot of stuff for Caitlin Clark. And I think there is another day. They cut off Caitlin Clark's passing. They did not allow her to control the game. Because I think she just shot badly in the game. There is another day, 5 more of those shots go in. Like, with the shots that Caitlin Clark took, there is no reason why, let's say hypothetically, like again, same with A'ja Wilson. Like A'ja Wilson on another day could have went 17 for 28. On another day, with those exact shots, Caitlin Clark probably goes 12 for 22 and 4 of 10 for 3. She got a lot of easy shots. But what they didn't let her do was dictate the whole game. That's what teams have really struggled with, is they have been allowing Caitlin Clark to control everything in the game. Becky Hammon gave Caitlin Clark a lot of good looks. She gave Caitlin Clark a lot of good looks. Obviously, some of the fouls that weren't called were blatant. But what she did not let Caitlin Clark do was control. She did not let Caitlin Clark control the pace. She did not let Caitlin Clark control the tempo. She did not let Caitlin Clark control the game via the pick and roll. She did not let Caitlin Clark get the ball to Aaliyah Boston at a short roll and allow Aaliyah Boston to control the game. They turned Caitlin Clark into a scorer first mentality. The ball just didn't go in. For Caitlin, the ball didn't go in. She could have had, on another day, with the shots that Caitlin got, she could have had 35. If Caitlin got hot in that game, she would have had 35. It was as easy looks as she has had. But she was being forced into making either really tough passes that were very rarely assist passes to anyone not named Aaliyah Boston. She was basically being forced to pass the ball to Alyssa Smith or shoot. And that is the best the team has done for stopping Caitlin Clark, outside of like Carrington or Benijah Laney Hamilton just physically just outplaying her. And look, I think that if the game was refereed better, I still think the Aces win that game. But I think in general, there is another reality where that game is played, because look, A'ja Wilson's she's not gonna play that badly again. Where if they go out with this tactic on Friday, the exact same tactic on Friday, Caitlin Clark could go and have a career high. But it was very clear the Aces tactic was, we're good with Caitlin dropping 30. We're not letting Caitlin feed Kelsey Mitchell for 30 and feed Aaliyah Boston for 30 and feed Lexi Hull for 10. We're good with letting Caitlin have 30. The reality was Caitlin didn't have 30. But they were willing to let her drop 30. And it's as good a defensive performance as I have seen in general from any team on Caitlin Clark. It was the first team I've seen pick one thing. Like, in fairness, Minnesota allowed her to be a passer. In the All-Star game, they allowed her to be a passer, and that doesn't work. I think at this point in her career, she is a better facilitator and playmaker than she is scorer. She's an unbelievable scorer. But if you were just to give up one, I think she's the first coach that has said, we're going to let her score. And I actually think when it comes to the playoffs, that's probably the best tactic. the best tactic is, if you're the Connecticut Sun, leave her on an island with Dejanay. If you are the Lynx, leave her on an island with Kayla McBride. That's probably the best way to guard her.